and gentlemen, you are listening to Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. It's an engaging and enlightening talk show on life, relationships, and the business of life. Grab a cup of juice and just chill. Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. Live life. Live fully.
Good to have you on the show. This is Omobola Stephen, the host of Live Well Lived by Omobola Stephen, where we have magic conversations, pivoting transformations that you and I need in this side of eternity. Now, Live Well Lived by Omobola Stephen, we offer constructive yet disruptive kind of conversations from experts and professionals who are adepts in this topic of personal development and self-improvement. In this season's episodes, we are super excited to present to you parenting and family dynamics in the 21st century as our core topic for such a time as this. So we continue in our series, in our episodes on parenting and family dynamics in the 21st century. Today, I will be glad to talk about how we can stay grounded in chaos, the tools that are provided for us to lead through emotional storms. And I'm glad to have Katherine Sellery, the founder of the Conscious Parenting Revolution and a trusted voice for parents and educators. Good to have you on the show, Katherine. I'm looking forward to it.
So nice to be here. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure and honor to have you, Katherine. So what can you discuss or what can you describe as a chaotic family? And also, what are some families chaotic?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the depending on how large a family is, how many kids you have, what the age ranges are, you're just going to feel like it never stops. And it's just always chaotic because you have so many different people with so many different skill levels at managing their emotional internal world. If they're upset about something, do they have the skills to be able to be with whatever is upsetting them, or do they just have it come out all over everybody around them? So the more we are out of control of our emotions, the more everything we're feeling is also being felt by everybody else in the room. And if you've got a lot of people in the room, then it can just be pretty wild out there. So the emotional regulation piece is really critical to families feeling harmonious, being able to have the sense that everybody in the room matters, everybody's needs matter, that when somebody's really upset, we know how to help them through it, as opposed to be mad at them because they're upset, but rather than that, be able to just support them through whatever they've become overwhelmed by. So that's, I think, the key is skills.
Now, when you mention that the more members in the family, the more messier or chaotic it can get, right? In terms of what you said, do we want to include other extended family members? I'm talking about the extended family members, or sometimes we can have just a single family framework, including just our parents, the husband and wife, and the kids, one or two kids, and then we still have a chaotic family. What would you say to that?
Absolutely. If you're just the partners, the husband and the wife and the children, it's almost impossible not to have chaos. It's just normal. Chaos is normal. So unless you somehow have managed to overcome all of the differences of opinion, then we can bet that there are going to be conflicts of people wanting different things at different times. And I think that's, again, where conflict resolution and collaborative problem solving are really, really important. So how do we have lots of different people, 2, 3, 4, and then beyond, because certainly we all have experiences with extended family members. Oftentimes, extended family members have perspectives about our parenting, which can also create a lot of problems because they are vocal about it. It's usually coming from a critical place, although certainly people can be acknowledging really positive parenting too. Parent or anybody out there listening as a parent, they know the dynamics is that depending on the age of the child and depending on their, levels of emotional maturity, and depending on the mindset of the parents, and depending on their perspective of whether children should be seen and not heard, or whether children are allowed to have a voice and be considered in the conversation, all of these mindsets are going to affect the dynamic of what's going on.
So at what point should we begin to consider conflict resolution in terms of handling chaotic situation?
Well, the best case scenario is when you know there's going to be a conflict coming, and you know it's coming because it always comes at this time. And so you prepare for it before it happens. One of the things I like to say is plan your problems. So if you're going to have a problem every single day, when the kids get home from school and you want them to go straight into getting their homework done, and they really want to go out and have fun because they've been outer directed all day long by probably their teachers and also potentially you as well. So if all of that is happening, then I can say safely, you're going to have a really hard time if you haven't prepared for it in advance. So the best case scenario is when you're able to know that this is coming. And so the day before you're talking about it, the weekend before, the year before, I mean, we just plan our problems. We know pretty well that there are going to be certain things happening at the same time every single day, rather than dealing with it when you're in the problem zone. Talk about it when you're not in the problem zone.
Thank you so much, Katherine, for that insight. Indeed, no, really, sometimes chaos arises in family dynamics when the kids, come to the fore. They are juggling for power tussle. It comes to the fore sometimes in family dynamics. So how can this be solved? I hope you get my question right.
Not so. I like to say children are people too. So if we see children as people too, and children have the right to have all the same needs that we do. So if Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you may be familiar with Maslow. So Maslow really helped us understand the full range of human needs, and other people have built on his work. So if we are operating from needing to meet our needs, and children also need to meet their needs, then the more that we understand that, hey, yeah, this is normal and natural, and it's not necessarily having anything to do with being, what do you want to call it, disrespectful, inconsiderate, selfish. These are kind of the labels that people often put when the adults in the room feel inconvenienced, when the adults in the room feel like they're missing out on just ease and harmony. So I think that's probably what happens in a lot of families, is that parents get maxed out. They're tired. They've been working hard. All they want is for kids to just cooperate. They just want them to cooperate. So this is where I think everybody falls into this category of, God, if you would just do as you're told. So if this is what's driving my mindset, is that you shouldn't even have a preference, then of course, anytime a child has a preference different than what I tell them to do, we're going to have conflict. It's going to turn into an explosion. And that's going to happen because children are people too, and they do have preferences, and they're not going to want to always just do as they're told. So if we have a different family framework, the framework would be something along the lines of, everybody here in this family has needs, and we all have preferences, but there's 3 of us, 4 of us, 5, 6, whatever the case may be. How are we going to work this out? Because we have to have a certain level of harmony. We have to have a certain level of smoothness. Otherwise, it's just so much breakdown. So, here's what I'd like to see. This is how I'd like to see our afternoons go. How do you feel about that? And invite the feedback and let them say, well, yeah, but I've been working all day. I don't want to just sit down when I get home and do more homework or do more outer directed activities. At what point a child may say, can I also have a voice in my activities and what I'm doing? When I get home, I really want to chill out. I want to relax. I want to have some balance in my life before I then sit back down again and start having to work. Does that make sense?
Sure. Now, the question is really, how can a family find a peace in a chaotic family life? Are you suggesting a fewer family structure or what?
I think it's best to have family meetings.
Mm.
So if adults and parents in the relationship want to say that no TV, no playing on your phone, no this, no that, no the other thing, whatever the rules are that they want to put into place, it's always better to have a collaborative conversation about those, because the people that you're going to be enforcing that, if they're also involved in the decision and they're also involved in being able to talk about like what comes up for them when you say that, the more likely you are that you're not going to have conflict on a day-to-day basis, because you've already talked about it. You've already worked through the glitches. You've already worked through whatever the emotions are that are arising, that are getting probably brought up all the time if you don't do this. So if you don't do collaborative problem solving, if you don't bring them into the conversation, then they're going to be in the conversation anyway, because they're probably going to push back.
Okay, really, we try to bring them into the conversation, but in some certain situations, you have one or two kids who don't want to voice their feelings. They just internalize. All you hear them say is, "I'm just fine. I'm just okay."
So when I hear that, what I hear is that they've learned probably that if they bring their feelings up or their preferences up, or they try to have a voice, that it's possible that voice has not really been welcomed. And so what they've learned, it's a learned behavior. Fine. Okay. No, I don't have anything to say. It's just a defensiveness. In order to build trust and have an open and warm relationship, then we have to be able to really show that it does matter. And how you feel about this is important to me. And I really do want us to all feel like our needs are being met. When that is the case, usually you don't have that kind of response from kids. Instead of that response, what you have is them saying, actually, they learn consideration because we show them what it means to be considerate. So the more we're considerate of other people's feelings and needs, and they see us modeling that behavior, the more they're considerate of our feelings and needs, and their friends and their brothers or sisters. They know what it means to be able to say, well, I know what my preferences are, and I know you've got your own preferences. So why don't we talk about what those are and see how we can figure out a way for everybody's needs to be met? It's a needs-based paradigm. If you don't have a needs-based paradigm, I'm not really sure what the operating system is. I guess it's power. And the power is what you use to command what people are going to do and when they're going to do it. The problem with that is that, I mean, this is well documented. It activates retaliation, rebellion, and resistance. So that's a resentment flow. That's the thing we're trying not to activate in families, because the 3 R's, retaliation, rebellion, and resistance, those 3 form a resentment flow. And it develops out of how we, the parents, the adults in the relationship, manage our day-to-day conflicts. And if we're managing them with the power over do as you say because I said so, then we're going to get 1 or 2 or 3 of the R's. And then we're going to spend a lot of time managing those.
Really, so we've got a lot of work to do, Katherine, as a parent. So how do we start to parent in alignment with our values? And when we have spent all years, a lot of years, just trying to get to the guy.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, values-driven family systems are like, that's the whole thing, is values-driven. So what are my values? Do I value kindness? Do I value consideration? Do I value happiness, friendliness, compassion, empathy? I mean, make your list. And then the whole work is, how do I live my list of values in such a powerful way that my kids around me also begin to develop the same values around kindness, consideration, happiness, compassion, empathy, the things that are valuable. I mean, I'm just naming what I think are pretty universal, that universally most of us do really value: consideration and kindness and warmth and generosity and empathy. If those are truly our values, then great, live them in the family, live them in a way in which children also experience your compassion and your empathy and your understanding and your listening skills. The more they feel seen, heard, and understood from their perspective, the more they develop the skill to be able to reflect that back to their parents, so that they also feel like they get you, you get them. It's a really mutually powerful platform to build those really most important relationships on, is being seen, heard, and understood.
Thank you once again, Katherine. Now, I'd like us to delve into patterns. I'd like us to delve into patterns.
Sure.
I think it's very important topic that most parents are dealing with. The very traumatic situations we tend to, the kids in the family settings absorbs this energy, these patterns, so consciously or unconsciously. Now, how can we start to identify these patterns? Some of us, we're still living in these patterns unconsciously, and it's beginning to make a negative impact in the family dynamics. Can you share your thoughts on that?
Sure. If we can become consciously aware of these irrational and unconscious beliefs and the patterns that have passed through the generations, then we're able to address them effectively rather than just be triggered. So I had actually a mom write to me this morning saying, "Oh my God, I'm so triggered by my son." I said, "Well, what's going on?" "Oh, he's being so dismissive of me and rude, and I'm not going to let him talk to me that way." And I said, "Wow, do you think that is it the problem, or is it a symptom of something else? Is that behavior masking something else? If we were to take that behavior and consider it a mask and take the mask off, what's going on behind the behavior?" And she said, "Well, I think he's depressed. And I also think he's really mad at me, because in this particular dynamic, there was an unhealthy relationship between this boy and his dad. And the boy is really mad about it and upset that she didn't do anything. She never stepped in. She allowed the father to be abusive. And now that the boy is older, he's in his mid-20s, he's really mad about it." And I said, "Oh, so this is just a mask, which is covering all these other really deep wounds?" And she said, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay, well, what's the real problem then? Do we want to talk about how those deeper experiences are now surfacing, and the problem is how they're surfacing? Or is the problem that there's a deep wounding and a lot of trauma and a lot of pain and hurt that needs to be worked through? And if we were to deal with all of that, then would the mask change? In fact, would we just be able to get rid of it?" I think that happens all the time with all of us, is that we mistake the mask as the issue when actually it's the symptom. And we get really upset about how the tragic expression of the unmet need is what we call it, the tragic expression of the unmet needs. So you have unmet needs. And in this case, we could say the needs were for safety, psychological safety. They weren't being met. And now, years later, there's somebody really angry about it. So is the problem the anger about it, or is that the solution? I think it's the solution, because through the anger, I believe they're going to work toward healing and reconciliation. I think that without the anger, they're not going to be able to move all of this energy. And of course, it's not enjoyable to have that experience going on right now, but I do think it's leading in the right direction.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for sharing the thoughts indeed. So you created the Conscious Parenting Network. What inspired you, and how did your own experience, how does the own experience as a parent shape your work?
No, totally. Yeah, I mean, that's really what, I guess you could say was the catalyst, the spark for this entire 25 years of my life. I have two kids. I have a 30-year-old now and a 26-year-old. So 30 years old was when my journey started as the parent. And my husband and I were deer in headlights. We did not know what we were doing. We were completely at a loss. We were living in Hong Kong at the time. And we had gone there. I had a job as a commodities trader. I was trading non-ferrous metals with China and the rest of the world. And he was an architect, and we moved there, and we were, young professionals and had great careers and opportunities. And then, I don't know, a few years later, I guess 3 years after we moved there, and kind of thought about having the kids, starting the family. And I'm thinking that around, I guess it was actually 5 years after we moved there, our son was born. And we really acknowledged that we were at a total loss. We didn't know what to do, how to handle, like, just even the most minor discipline issue. We knew the stuff that everybody else did, like the dominant culture is about, like 1, 2, 3, like counting until they change their behavior, or even harsher things like the naughty chair, or things like go to your room, or, just all that kind of stuff. And it didn't sit well. It didn't feel right. So maybe you could get a change in behavior. But I guess what I learned is I'm not a behavioralist. It's not just about changing the behavior. It's really about wanting to understand why the behavior is there in the first place, and to get underneath the behavior, kind of like we were just talking about a minute ago. Like, what is the underlying unmet need? And if we can address the underlying unmet need, then how it's surfacing, the tragic expression of that unmet need, all that kind of stuff just disappears. So I didn't know that then, though. I mean, I had to learn all of this. So we started taking classes, and there was a person in Hong Kong teaching a parenting course that we took, and then I took over and over and over again. And it was really about effective communication, assertive communication rather than aggressive communication. It was about shifting the paradigm to not seeing behaviors as good, bad, right, wrong, but seeing them as clues and signals. And it was like looking at the behaviors as, like, what is this telling me about your underlying state of being? And then through that work, breaking all of those deep habits of just reacting to surface behaviors as if the behavior were the problem, when really basically the behavior almost always is the symptom. It's a symptom of everything as basic as tired, hungry, and then I think it goes to the other, more food and hunger and sleep often are the core of a lot of these behaviors. And, if we just put them to bed and give them a good meal, they wake up and they're brand new people. But then I think it's more emotional. It's the emotional and the psychological. It's feeling they don't matter, feeling they don't belong, not having a friend, having a fight with a friend at school, not knowing what to do about it, feeling slighted by a teacher. I mean, then you really start to understand that all of these emotional situations that kids experience, adults experience, we just have more skills at managing our internal world. Kids don't. So when we start to experience the surface behaviors, unless we have this framework, we think the problem is the surface behavior. And then it's all about how to manipulate the surface behavior to get it to go away. And that's what didn't work for me. So that was the beginning. I didn't realize it was going to turn into what I do all the time, but it really did become my passion.
Good to know, Katherine. The audience will be excited to learn of any important information or projects you think is going to add value to them. You can share them if you have any.
I mean, what I would recommend is we just built a quiz. And the quiz is parents getting a chance to understand what their parenting style is. And through that, they can understand like what the benefits of that style are and what the hidden problems are. So I would say everybody would really enjoy taking the quiz. And if we didn't send you the link, I'll send it to you after we get off. And people can use that as a way to go, oh, wow, I didn't even know. I mean, I know everybody chooses their parenting style because they think it's the right thing. Or they haven't thought a lot about it until it begins to have a lot of what we call retaliation, rebellion, and resistance, the 3 R's. Once you have those surfacing, then you go, maybe this isn't the best way. Maybe I do need some other skills to approach conflict resolution. Maybe I'm creating the conflicts because I only have one tool in my toolbox. When the atmosphere goes awry, I just use power over. All I know is threats, right? Rewards and punishments. If you don't stop that, this is going to happen. Or I'll give you this goodie if you'll change your behavior. So when you're limited to just rewards and punishments, you are going to end up with a lot of retaliation, rebellion, and resistance. So one of the ways that you can find out a little bit more about yourself is to take the quiz.
We'll be happy to have that information, Katherine. Looking forward to the link, really.
We'll send it to you.
We're going to add them to the show notes. Very important.
Yeah.
You like to share your social media handles on your website. We love to connect and learn more about you.
Yeah. So I have, my website is consciousparentingrevolution.com. And if you go to the website, you can join my Lifeline. I have a Lifeline free community. So it's just that, when you're drowning and you need to grab something and pull yourself out, that's a lifeline. So if you feel yourself drowning, you just need some support, some other parents who are going through similar things, so you don't feel alone, and you can just kind of normalize it, like it's not fun, it's not easy, but it's normal. Then please join that community. We'd love to have you. I also have a lot of free resources on my website. So if you're experiencing gaming problems, there's something there for you. If it's, a lot of it is, just free resources that you can find on the site, as well as, I send out a newsletter every week, and we kind of like take a stab at one problem or another on a weekly basis. So people have just another idea about maybe how to address sibling rivalry, or how to address a child who doesn't want to go to school, or having a problem with you or one of the other people in the family. And sometimes we just need another idea.
Absolutely. Can the audience also book a time with you? Do you want to consider yourself also as a family therapist or a parenting therapist?
Yeah, I have a training that I do called the Family Reset, and it's a 90-day parenting reset. So, that gives you me every week in a coaching call, as well as all of the training modules that are about 2 or 3 different modules per week. And I have a 250-page workbook, and every week, you're probably going to go through about 20 pages of reading and thoughtful exercises to think about as you try to unpack like where you are on this journey of parenting. And it's a really sweet community where people uplift and support each other through transformation.
All right, good to know. Thank you so much, Katherine Sellery, for sharing this information with the audience and your thoughts on today's show, especially stay grounded in chaos. You provided tools for leading through emotional storms, which is something that is realistic, is a reality we all face as parents in these changing times that we are in, the 21st century dilemma. Katherine Sellery is the founder of the Conscious Parenting Revolution and a trusted voice for parents and educators. It has been a great time, a worthwhile topic of discussion indeed, having you explore this topic with me on Live Well Lived by Omobola Stephen, as you are able to pivot positive transformations in the lives of the audience indeed. Sincerely, from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of the audience, we wish you best of luck in all of the projects that you embark upon.
Thank you so much. It's really been nice to talk with you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much once again, Katherine. It's such a honor and a delight to have you indeed. If you like
Likewise.
to catch up with any missed episodes of the show, you can do so on any podcast distribution platforms you bump into online. And do have a great time as you listen to expert professionals who are hardest in these topics. We're focusing on parenting and family dynamics in the 21st century. So you have got a whole lot of information and insight to listen to on Library by Omobola Stephen that are transformative and also pivoting the changes you and I need in the area of parenting and family dynamics. Till I come your way, I need you always to stay safe. I talk to you soon. Thank you so much, Katherine.
Bye-bye.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you subscribe and leave us a review.